So can you summarize a bit of the research that you also talked about in your blog that has been done on olfactory training for olfactory dysfunction, and maybe at the same time talk about what olfactory training is? I don't think that we really covered that yet.
Olfactory training is what it sounds like. You're just training your nose to smell again, and it's basically intentional exposure to a limited set of odorants. So basically, the protocol that has been adopted based on the research is you have 4 different odorants. Either it's single molecules, or you're using essential oils. It's usually lemon, rose, eucalyptus, and clove, I think. And you smell these 4 odorants twice a day intentionally. So you take the bottles, intentionally inhale it, even if you can't smell it at the point, but you kind of, you literally are training your nose. There are protocols that you can download. There are people you can work with that help you. It's usually a long-term process, kind of like any training. You won't see results immediately. You have to be consistent for at least 6 weeks, usually 8 weeks. And that's all based on research. The research on olfactory training was happening way before COVID. And it was based on, and I'm now blanking on the name of the scientist, but he was working with androstenone, which is a male hormone for animals that's used in artificial insemination. About half of humans are anosmic to this particular constituent, which means half of people can't smell androstenone. And this scientist was among those people who couldn't smell it, but he was working with it. And gradually he started noticing it, he started smelling it. So that was the first indication for the researcher saying, oh, well, wait a minute, you can retrain yourself to smell something that you were previously unable to. From there, Professor Hummel in the Dresden Institute for Olfactory Studies started looking into this and started saying, okay, well, can we see if we can help people with anosmia? Because he was working with people with anosmia. Can we see if we can retrain them to regain their sense of smell? And fast forward 15 years of research, testing different protocols, testing different odorants to see if there's a difference, if we use this or that. We are now at a place where olfactory training is pretty much accepted as one of the ways to treat anosmia with the accepted protocol, which is either the 4 single constituents or you're using essential oils. And I don't think it would be the case if COVID didn't happen and if anosmia wasn't such a big thing with COVID, but it was happening nevertheless. When I started working on the article, the first research paper that I read was actually about neuroplasticity, meaning you are recreating connections in your brain between neurons through smell training. So that was, I kind of dove in the deep end, looking at functional MRI scans, looking at the brain, saying, okay, so this person was anosmic. When they were smelling things, the brain didn't light up the way it was supposed to. After smell training, we're seeing the connections being rewired, reconnected. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And kind of back from there, okay, well, there's something here. And it's the whole research is fascinating. I don't know if we could link to the blog post, not just because I want you to read my blog post, but there are links to really fascinating research on smell training.
Yeah, and the other thing about the blog post is it also talks about all the different forms of anosmia. I mean, there are so many different forms and so many different symptoms, and so it's also it was for me very important to read because I only knew the word anosmia pretty much, and so to be able to read about all those the different types and and also just the fact that there's still not that much research on it, right? That we still have so much more more to learn. And actually, the olfactory training really inspired me because I have a friend who had COVID for the third time. And the first time she had COVID, she was quite affected by it and lost her sense of smell, but only for bad smells.
Lucky her.
Yeah, kind of. But she's like, yeah, I just can't tell if things are rotten or something. You know, it is still quite strange for her. But the third time she had COVID, she had form of anosmia so bad that she was constantly smelling one bad smell all the time, and it was making her very, very sick. And of course, the doctors didn't know what to do or how to help her. And so she was talking to me about it, and I said, oh, well, you know, there's this olfactory training you can do. And so I brought her the 4 essential oils that you named. Was it lemon, clove, eucalyptus, and rose?
Yeah.
And just a few reflections from doing this with her, because she was at the time she thought she had lost her sense of smell, but actually she smelled them, and a few of them she could identify. Or she could really reflect on it. And she said a couple of days later, she actually didn't have the problem anymore because she was doing this twice a day, I told her. And so that was really, really cool to see, and also to understand why these 4 scents were chosen, because she knew them. You know, we don't always have an easy time identifying smells, but these 4 smells, people know them. And can say them. Like, people can say, oh, that's eucalyptus.
That's clove. Yeah, you can. The reason they were chosen is actually based on an early 20th century perfumery researcher, and I don't remember his name right now, who introduced, like, we have the color prism. He introduced a fragrance prism, and it had so the selection was from pungent, floral, herbaceous, and citrusy, I think. Again, I would have to check that, but there was a logic there. But I think it's also the fact that those are familiar smells, so you kind of think about what it is in your call it the sort of the memory book in your brain for that smell. You know, I kind of remember what clove smells like. I kind of know what I'm supposed to be smelling. And I heard of a person who retrained himself to hear. He lost his hearing. That's a different sense. But he knew that he was going to lose his hearing. So he was intentionally learning music, songs that he would listen. And then he got an implant to restore his sense of hearing. And he was listening to the same songs. So he knew what he was supposed to hear. And that helped him. And it's kind of similar with the scents. You kind of know what you're supposed to be smelling. Very happy to hear that your friend is feeling better, because it's losing sense of smell or having a distorted sense of smell really is impactful. And then we said that, you know, it's kind of a great smell to a great sense to have, but it's linked to depression as well. You know, if you lose your sense of smell, it will lead to depression. It will lead to you not being able to enjoy life to its max because you can't taste things. Then there's social anxiety because you can't smell your own body odor, so you won't go out, or you will wash too much because you're just paranoid about smelling. If you have a little baby, you will be also paranoid about changing the diaper soon enough. And so there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of diminished enjoyment of life linked to that. So I'm very happy that your friend was able to overcome that with smell training.
Yeah. I like this idea that you know what's coming, so it helps you improve in a way.